Hello, friends. It's Tuesday. We are 5 days into Rough Draft Challenge, and I haven't really done any writing yet, but I have been working hard and planning. I just got off a meeting with Amber McHugh, my favorite mastermind mentor, business mentor. We're doing some pre-planning stuff for 2025 and just strategizing and thinking through. So I've scheduled another meeting with her so we could go a little bit longer on Thursday, and that's going to be awesome. I have a fun book date over to Half Price Books with my good friend Megan tomorrow. So today needs to be about getting giveaways done, spooktacular things, and then also really starting to plot this book. So, you ready? Let's get some plotting going. Before we do anything else though, I got to go edit yesterday's video. So it takes me about an hour to an hour and a half to edit each day's video. So it's something that even though you guys don't see it, it's something extra that I'm doing every day. And I really enjoy it. I kind of get into a rhythm of recording, editing, getting the video up, and it kind of reminds me, okay, this is what we're working toward. I know several people have said, I thought you hired a video editor. So I did, but I don't have a video editor that can take like 65 clips and have a video ready by an hour, right? It would take them 2 or 3 days to get it. So for the month of November, I'm editing all my own videos and I'm enjoying it. So let's go edit and then we'll get back to work on the book. Okay, video complete and uploading, answered a bunch of emails, and now it's time for lunch. So day is moving right along. So we decided we're going to go out writing and lunching, I guess. So I'm pretty excited. We're going to go hang out. Should be a good afternoon. Okay, so we went and had a nice lunch. We also tried, so the Dutch Brothers Coffee is a brand new coffee place here in our town. And so I thought I'd try it. It's pretty tasty, but I don't think we'll be going back. We're 7 Brew stands now. We love 7 Brew. If you have a 7 Brew near you and you haven't been, I highly recommend it. It is our favorite coffee place these days. But anyway, it's not bad. If you love Dutch Brothers coffee, let me know in the comments. So I am going to continue working. I think what I really want to do, there's 2 things. One, I want to sit down and start working through the plot structure of how I'm going to do this serial and like getting into the nitty gritty of that sort of what's that story arc that's going to carry on. And then also I want to do some of my Q4 planning because I talked about this at the beginning of the month here that I have not fully planned my Q4, and not having everything on sticky notes has been a real bummer for me. So like I need to get it done. So I think I'm going to work on that a little bit today. Let me show you to my board. So as you've seen probably before, I have these calendars from Kaleidoscope Living here, but then I also have this board leading into my office that I used to have just the plot of my story on, but now I've separated this into a Sarra Cannon project board. So I have audiobooks here where my narrator, Kylie Stewart, is currently working on book 4 of my series. My first Shadow Demons audiobook will release December 2nd. So that's coming up, Beautiful Demons in audio. But I need to proofread these. So I have the chapters here. So when she starts sending chapters, I can calculate that project or track it here. Project Phoenix, many of you are familiar with that. Almost nothing has gotten done with Project Phoenix this year, even though I had big plans. It's just been too busy. Then I have Shadow Demons 12. This is not the plot. This is all the reading that I need to do to get ready for book 12 and get myself back in the mindset and back in the world. Then I have BCS, which stands for the Broken Chapter Society. This is my reader membership on my Sarra Cannon YouTube channel. We probably are going to be launching a Heart Breathings channel membership here on YouTube as well. So be on the lookout for that. But I'm just doing like extra live streams, and I'm going to be reading the story that I'm writing now, A Mirror of Shadows. And so I have stuff that needs to get done for that. So this is my BCS. And you can see I have washi tape separating, but then I also have like a white line. So this is to do, and this is done, to do, done, to do, done, and so on. Then I have A Mirror of Shadows over here. And the way that I am planning to put this on the board is, instead of having a 3-act, 4-act structure, I'm just going to have each chapter here. And right now I'm planning for it to be between 12 and 16 chapters. So I'm just going to put chapter 1 through, we'll say 16 here. And actually, as I say that, I'm remembering that I never did set up my little jar for the 25/30 to 50,000 words that I'm going to write this November. So I think I'm going to work on all of this. And I'm going to work on some of the giveaways for Spooktacular. So it is currently 1:54. So it's already getting to be pretty late in the day, but I'm going to make the most of it. So since we're real here at Heart Breathings, did I just sit down to answer a single email and 40 minutes have gone by? Not really 40, but what time did I get home? I said it was 1:50. It's now 2:13. So almost 25 minutes have gone by. Unintentionally allowing myself to get distracted by the internet today. So we're going to refocus, zoom in. One of the things I'm going to do is, I never set up my little to be done jars. So I'm going to show you that real quick. So here's what I have is, I had bought like a big bag of these gems. You don't really need this many, but I couldn't find the colors I wanted in smaller bags. So I have blue, and then I have pink, and I have purple, and I was just using these in different ways. So I think that what I'm going to do actually for this particular book, of course I was thinking, I kind of want to use red. And I don't have red. I do have some reds in this one, because this is the one that my kids use for chores. The kids both earn gems, and once they've earned a certain amount, they get some screen time or a trip to like GameStop or a Stuffy or whatever. So that's our kind of system. Andrew is hoarding his because he wants to earn $20 on Robux. It's going to be a while. So anyway, I have my little mason jars. This one says to do. And I think that since I'm going for 25, I'm just going to go ahead and take out 25 of these blue ones and put them into the to do section. And I might add more if I decide I want to go for more than 25. But for now, we're going to start with that. And so far I'm at just over 2,000. So I can move 2 over for the 25. And if you wanted to, you could do for every 500 words or for every chapter or for every 30-minute sprint that you do. You could really make it any way you wanted to, just something that feels motivating. So this is what 25 looks like. We're going to go ahead and move 2 over, and we're on our way. I have been working pretty hard on trying to come up with my story structure. So I've got out these Mr. Pen. These are very thin pieces of paper, but this was very inexpensive. So it's a pad of paper, just like a typical legal notepad, but it has lots of different colors in it, which, always appeals to me. So I am taking this little pad and it's grid paper, graph paper, and I've been trying to figure out, okay, what's my story structure? So we're going to talk through a little bit, and I'm just going to tell you some of this might not make any sense and some of it might not be how I fully do it, but I'm committed to sharing the process. So typically when you're writing a longer series or a series, you have sort of a novel structure. It's like structures within a structure. It's like nesting dolls, right? So when you're writing a larger series, you may have multiple arcs, but they're usually leading you toward one big piece of the puzzle, like one big conflict, one big reveal, or one big thing that's happening in the world. And so you have that overarching plot structure, which doesn't always follow like a 4-act structure, but it is filled with things like twists, reveals, cliffhangers, new information, just kind of all of that rising action and conflict. Hopefully you're raising the stakes, raising the conflict. Your characters are growing and becoming the person they need to be. There's new knowledge, new information that's coming out throughout the entire series, and all of that is part of it. When I'm also going to be taking a series and breaking it down into episodes that will make sense and provide a good listening experience for my readers as I'm reading it on YouTube, then I need to have that macro structure as well as a micro structure. So this is where we're talking about nesting dolls. And as I'm thinking about it, this is just kind of what's coming to mind for me is, let's say I want to publish this as 4 books, but really it's one long story that's going to be, we'll say, around 160,000 words, 40,000 words for each chunk. But I think structurally, in terms of a macro structure, I'm going to plot this as if it were, oh, kids are home, as if it were a duology. Also, I just realized my sad plant is visible in the background, and Evie's calling my name. So hold that thought. Evie's home from school. How was your day?
Horrible. The best.
It was the best.
The best.
You sneaky girl. So I'm going to go move some of my stuff out into the living room, get her changed, just some play clothes, and just hang out with the fam. And here's kind of, let me walk you through what I'm thinking. So 4 books, but it's really structurally duology. Okay, let's try again. Structurally, 4 books, but 4 books split into what is structurally kind of like a duology. So what that would mean is the first 2 books are really like, book 1 would be Act 1 and the Act 1 and 2, kind of like Act 1, promise of the premise, moving into the midpoint, and the end of the first book would really be structurally that big twist that would happen at the midpoint of the first book of a duology, but we're going to leave people there on that cliffhanger. Then the second book becomes the bad guys close in, the tests and challenges and all of that kind of stuff that comes with Act 3. And then Act 4, climax resolution, but not like the big one of the series, but the one that is in this particular arc, leading with an even, or ending with an even bigger, like just when you think there's a resolution, and there will be a resolution, like a climax resolution of that sort of first arc, a new problem appears that will lead us into the second set of books, just like kind of a duology in fantasy. So we've got at the end of book 1, a big twist reveal. End of book 2, a bigger twist reveal. Then book 3 will be kind of like a new Act 1 and 2 structure. So it'll be introducing a new way of life, a new world, a new conflict, introducing how the characters are going to work on that, new fun and games, a new premise, sort of a new thing introduced after the world shifted at the end of book 2, with book 3 ending with another big climax. And this time it'll be similar to like a midpoint climax, where it's like not the huge reveal, but another thing that amps the stakes, that amps up the conflict and the character arcs. And then book 4 becomes the climax and resolution of the whole series. But then that's sort of like the larger structure. But then the microstructure is that every episode within each one of those books is going to have its own goal, conflict, resolution that leads into a new cliffhanger. And I love writing fast-paced cliffhangers, character arcs that span multiple books. Like, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I love. This is what I'm good at. And I'm going to lean into that as much as possible. Now, in some ways, though, episode 1 of book 1 will need to kind of still be into the new world, right? Because of the way that I'm reading it on YouTube, it's not going to be, I don't have as much time to work out, I guess, the same level. So one of the things that I was thinking of doing to successfully read this on YouTube is, instead of doing like episode 1 and only episode 1 and then waiting a few days before I read episode 2, is I might read the first, let's say, if I think about it, it would be really the first 3 or 4 episodes all in one week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just as like a kickoff, so that by that Thursday episode, we have our Act 1 climax of that first sort of duology. I don't know if this is making any sense, but I'm going to try to put it out on paper with that sort of nesting doll structure and see if I can explain it a little bit more efficiently in that way. I've got it in my head, but now I have to see if I can explain it, how it's going to be for you guys. And I'm not saying that this is how you structure a serial, but I'm just saying this is how I'm going to structure my serial for not only maximizing the reader's experience and the reading experience, since this is being written specifically to read. So I'll be reading it live on YouTube at Sarra Cannon, but I also will be releasing it in a private podcast for the members of my YouTube channel over there. And I will also be putting it out in like book format, kind of like if you were on Kindle Vella, rest in peace, or like Kiss, or any of those serialized platforms, Wattpad, etc. And then every 40,000 words, or whatever that first bit it will be, like book form will get published as an ebook, probably for $2 or $3.99, depending on how long it ends up being or how long it takes me to read and write it. And I'm trying to maximize that reader experience, but also maximize the potential for momentum, somewhat rapid release, and making money off of the series, so I can support me continuing to spend my time on writing as opposed to other things. So this is all the stuff that you kind of have to think about once you become a professional writer, is not only how can I get this out there, but how can I make this have the biggest impact, be the most joyful thing that I can write, and trying to balance that reader experience with also wanting to make it profitable. Because the first time that I released a serial was Sacrifice Me, and that was 6 episodes, but I put the first one free and the rest were 99 cents. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I made almost 6 figures off of that series, but the majority of the money that came in when I boxed up those first 6 episodes all as one season, and that was what charged like $3 or $4.99, and that's where I made the majority of the money. But those rapid releases at 99 cents also built momentum within my reader group. So just kind of thinking about, how do I want to structure this to make it the most fun, the most enjoyable, the easiest for me to write quickly, just all those things. And I think that I can find a way to have fun with it, but also make it a fun ride and super profitable for my business. Okay, so I found a way to sort of explain what it is I'm doing. So we're looking at macro structure down to micro structure, and I have some of it figured out. So basically, this series is going to be a single larger story told in 4 parts, but we have the overall series. We're going to have a main goal of the series, the major conflict or big bad of the series, and then an overall arc or transformation that my character, my main heroine, is going to need to go through. And because this is a romance, we're going to have a separate arc for the hero as well, is how I'm hoping to do that. So I think it's really going to be, if we're looking at just the main arc, we're looking at the kind of 2 things mixed together that are both equally as important. So one, we have the romance between the hero and heroine. That's big part of the story. But also, in terms of the fantasy, we have the heroine's journey. And this will be a heroine's journey. If you want to read up on that, I will link a book down below by Gail Carriger that is about the heroine's journey, and it's so good. So that is on a series level. Then we kind of have a duology here, even though this is going to be 4 books. So in the first half of the duology, we have establishing the world, introducing the characters, setting up the stakes. The heroine learns the world and her abilities, and then we're going to introduce some subplots, plant the seeds. There's going to obviously be the romance, which is part of the introducing of the characters. And then we've got resolution to one of the story questions, but the overarching plot is going to continue, and it says cliffy ending because that's where it wants to be. So this first half of the series, which is going to be the first 2 books, will be a lot about discovery and world building while continuing to figure out her place in the world as well as how they are together. This is definitely going to be enemies to lovers. It's definitely going to be slow burn, or at least that's what I think. Sometimes my stories surprise me. Then the second half of the duology is confrontation, continuation to escalate of, or continuation and escalation of the conflict and drama, intensifying the stakes, character development and growth, like really digging into the themes of the book here, and then deepening of all these relationships. Not only, because another thing that I always do in terms of universal fantasy and tropes is found family, like every single series and book I've ever written. So that's definitely going to be part of it. Then bigger dramatic tests and challenges than what we saw in the first half, final confrontation, and then a resolution of the entire series, which will be this resolution of the main conflict of the series, which is basically the fact that she's trapped in this world. So her main goal is going to be to get out of this world. And the major conflict will be that she's stuck here and she doesn't belong there. So we have that duology structure now broken down into 2 books each. So book 1 of a duology will be broken into 2 books. If that kind of, I know this might sound confusing, so either roll with it or skip past. But the first book will be that first part of like establishing the world and stakes, meeting the characters, introducing the first big goal and conflict and challenges. And then there will be a mini resolution with a big twist as a cliffhanger there at the end. Then we move straight into book 2, which is kind of like the second half of this first book, deepening the subplots, continuing to explore the world, continuing to ramp up and learn her abilities within the world, raising the stakes, pushing to that goal, and then a climax at the end of book 2. But then instead of a full resolution, bam, there's going to be a bigger twist, like, oh my gosh, this changes everything kind of moment, like what you would typically find at the end of a duology book 1. Book 3 will be continuation and escalation, bigger stakes, deepening relationship, bigger tests and growth, conflict being resolved, but a bigger unforeseen potential problem will show. So then these twists at the end of each book, 1, 2, and 3, just get bigger and bigger and bigger. The stakes get bigger. Everything's a constantly rising action. Then in book 4, we basically have no way out. Like all is lost, no way out. The bad guys are closing in. So we've got the final push to the goal, full growth of our character, like whatever's going to push her to be her ultimate best self. Same with the romance. Biggest conflict, everything is at stake at this point. It's do or die. And then the final ultimate confrontation. So that book 4 will just be like a battle fest, conflict fest. That the most of that whole 4th book will be the ultimate conflict. Then we have each of these books, each of these 4 will be broken down into what I'm guessing will be about 14 chapters or scenes or episodes, and each episode will have its own mini structure of having a goal, conflict, or some kind of rising action, and then a temporary resolution in each episode to whatever that story question or conflict was for that particular episode. And then that will just continue and continue and continue to raise, but that will be interwoven with all of the things like romance, subplots, relationships, themes, conflict, learning the world, character growth. All of that will be infused into these 14 scenes within the structure of like book 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So sat outside. Andrew and George played baseball a little bit. Evie was drawing with some chalk, and I read another few chapters. I'm up to chapter 13 of Red Queen, and I'm excited to keep, let me walk back in here so we've got some light. I'm excited to keep working, reading through it, but I have a Samsung tablet, has the little pen that comes with it. I don't really use my iPad anymore because it's the one that I ended up getting a couple of years ago for Nano is the 12.9 inch. And it's just so much harder to carry around, and everything else, my phones, my laptop, everything else is Samsung. So I've switched over to Samsung. This is the Samsung, I forget which one, but it's like the newest tablet, but it's the fan edition one. So it's the most inexpensive one, and it has been so good. You can get, I'm using an app called Penly, and I think the app was maybe $10 to buy, but it comes with a free digital planner, and my HB90 gets loaded onto it. So what I'm going to do now, George is at a meeting, like coffee shop with some of his guy friends. So the kids and I are going to go upstairs, play some video games, watch some TV, and I'm going to work on my Q4 plan in November. But it's going to be kind of a truncated plan, and I'm also going to be thinking ahead and forecasting ahead to what I'm doing in 2025. So I think I'm just going to end the vlog here and let what I decided today kind of take up space in my brain for a little bit. Tomorrow I'll be at a coffee shop with my friend Megan and going to Half Price Books. So another thing we're going to do is go through the house and just look for any books that we can turn in and trade in, and see if there's anything the kids want me to look for. And I'm excited for that. So yeah, no real new words today other than just a little bit of journaling, but not really anything I want to count. And then that pad of paper talking about the structure. But every day is not going to be a big word count day, but you also don't always have to judge whether or not you had a successful writing day on the word count that you get, even though I know we're all trained to feel that way in the month of November if you've done Nano before. But giving yourself space to follow your process, like I've been saying the last few days, sometimes is the best way. And for me right now, this feels really good, and I'm excited to kind of let that sit in my brain for a bit about the 4-book structure that I'm going to follow. And we'll see how I feel about it tomorrow. I'm definitely feeling tons better today. My energy is so much better. And I think a good 8 hours of sleep tonight is really going to help. And then a little outing tomorrow will be good too. I think I'm going to call it a night. I will check in with you all tomorrow. I hope your writing is going great, and I will see you soon. Mwah. Bye.